As the theme for this discussion is on analytics and social media, let's just focus on those two words first, analytics and social media. So let's begin with analytics. Let's see how the academic world defines analytics. Analytics is an encompassing and multidimensional science that uses mathematics, statistics, predictive modeling. By the time I read the second part of the definition, I actually lost the first part of the definition. That's exactly what makes data science a overly complicated wrapping shell around some simple stuff. I'm not saying that data analytics is something that is a piece of cake. It is very much a nuanced science which requires both rigorous continuous learning and evolution as well as high degree of passion to be successful. But to take a step back here, I would love to share how I see things. Much simple. As someone said, the most complicated problems in the world are a result of simple problems combined together. So instead of going over a definition that has too many buzzwords and pretty much fancy in itself, let's look at things from a much simpler lens. Analytics comes from the ancient Greek word called analytica, which basically means the science of analysis. The keyword here is science. What's the simplest way to understand science? I would say it's the state of knowing distinguished from ignorance or misunderstanding. The other keyword there was analysis. Analysis is what makes a human superior to all other forms of life. The power to reason, the power to observe, make inferences, learn, improve, and observe again. The next keyword that we saw here was what is social media? Oh, well, who doesn't know it? For a lot of us, social media is Facebook or Twitter. For some, it might be LinkedIn. But most of us cannot deny hearing the buzzword social media. And I bet, like me, most of you would have heard it's expanding, it's booming, and it's here to stay. I had another poll for you, but I think this is a poll that we already have running. So if you have done any of these things that you see on the screen in the last 24 hours, probably reading an article or a post by a friend on your Facebook timeline, remembering this funny tweet by a friend, looking up for a professional on a LinkedIn platform, getting excited by Instagram photos, videos, YouTube, Dropbox, Google Hangouts, video call, any of these, on the second poll that might appear on your screen now, just go for a yes. And if you haven't done any of these in the last 24 hours, just go for a no. Interestingly, I have 87% people who have used social media in the last 24 hours, and there are 13% people who haven't. And in fact, those 13% people are who I would love to meet for sure. In fact, just to add, this very mode of communication that we are into right now, this webinar in itself is another social media. So for those 13% people who did say a no to not using any of those platforms, my friends, you're still using social media at this very moment in your life. Let me talk in brief about how do I see social media. For me, social media is a combination of 3 P's. The very fundamental of social media is people. It is you, me, all of us at the center of this. It's a medium for me to be able to connect to the society around me, not just the people I meet physically every day, but the society around me at large. From the Prime Minister of the country to the famous television actor to the budding martial arts performer across the street, it is this social media that lets me connect to the people around me in various forms of sharing ideas, content, images, videos, questions, answers, wisdom, love, hate, everything. And that exactly is the second most important component of social media, the power. the power to connect to thousands and hundreds of thousands of people around me, the power to voice out my opinion more openly, the power to express how I feel without the fear of being judged. Because somewhere in the broader world, there are people who think like me and there are people who go against me every single time. But I get the support that I need from the broader community, the power to learn from the community, the power to build community. It's that power to share my joys, sorrows, victory, failures, everything else on earth. The power of you to achieve what you want to build a better world, to give back to the community you have been taking from for a long time. And that, my friends, is the third and the final aspect of social meeting, the purpose. To be able to reflect your purpose by this collaboration, to bring around the change you want, to question the government, to ask questions, to promote your business, to improve lives of people around you, to create a platform of sharing, caring, to provide an opportunity to bring the world more closer. That's exactly what I think, friends, is truly the purpose of social media. Now, if you think about this, this is a giant, giant network that we have developed that belongs to us and that created for ourselves. In a way, I could say that it is by the crowd, of the crowd, and for the crowd. Sounds familiar, right? It's by the Abraham Lincoln's definition of democracy, and which is why I strongly believe that social media is actually the biggest democracy in the world. I see social media as the democracy that goes beyond countries, beyond borders. Well, enough said about social media and enough said about analytics. Let's give a closer look to understand where we are at the moment. How does the social media look like? Let's go into deeper of the numbers around there maybe. So the numbers that you see right now on the screen are the most recent numbers that we have from the most credible web resource called Global Web Index, which is GWI. For 7.4 billion people on this earth, around 3.7 billion are using internet in this day. I'm assuming it's a lot more because this report is again 6 months old, which is like 50% penetration from the active world. And out of that, 37% of the people are using active social media, whereas 34% of them are using on the go on their mobile phones. With an interesting characteristic of 108% population using mobile subscriptions, because I know a number of us use 2 mobiles per person, or in fact more than that for a few celebrities. So the landscape there is huge, and we do see the volumes that we are talking about. We are touching 1 of every 3 persons on the earth right now. You meet 3 people, you guarantee one of those 3 is certainly a component of social media somehow or the other, contributing to the community and extracting from the community at the same time. But this is just the beginning. At Facebook, we believe that it's 1% done. In the digital industry, we believe it's 4% done. But truly speaking, there's a lot more that has to be done to bring the world into a more inspiring place for everyone around us. But what are a few things that defines the trend of the social media industry in the next 1 to 2 to 3 years? And these are the trends that we have been observing from the past 6 to 12 months. Is what I would love to talk a little more about in the next couple of minutes. So things that you should be looking forward to: growing artificial intelligence. That's one of the primary areas of interest for anybody who's working in social media right now. It's a simple thing. All of us use this. It's a simple face filter. There are Instagram stories. There are scribbling around Instagram. There's Snapchat where you can create your memories. There are all these interesting platforms which are right now using your camera as a window to the world. It analyzes your face in real time and puts real time fixtures on top of that. That's the most grounded example of how artificial intelligence is impacting us all. There's a lot more to that. There's a lot more to explore in terms of how AI, augmented reality, in terms of Oculus. All these things are pretty much a part of our everyday lives right now. In a lot of cases, even when we do not realize it is there, it is pretty much there. According to TechCrunch, which is one of the credible resources for measurement in the technical industry, there were more than 100 million active users on Instagram stories within 2 months of release. The idea is not about how a product is performing. The idea is to understand how we are building engagement and communities around people who love to share, who love to share ideas, who love to share business, who love to share emotions across the communities and bringing the world closer together. That's exactly how the social media sees the going forward objective for itself. Chatbot is the only automation. Everything else is personalized. I do not like to read those generic messages on my phone anymore, and I have uh, consciously noticed that a lot more communication by the businesses towards me is personalized. Whether it's about the campaigns that are targeted to me. The next time I go to Facebook, I see products that I was being targeted, that I was searching on Amazon, and it is able to pick up my interest and communicate to me the same things that match my interest level. Whether it's about listening to me, I'm able to reach out to Uber, businesses that I interact to, Zoom Car, all of these businesses that I interact to on a daily basis, and they entertain the customers on a more personal level. There's more humanistic response there, and there's a more organic, better relationships churning out of these interactions. The only automation that I see increasing in the industry is the power to be able to go on the go. There are a lot of things that probably we haven't seen in India yet in terms of being able to do commerce on the Facebook Messenger, being able to buy tickets on the Facebook Messenger. But there are things like these which are happening around in the world, and not pretty much late when you would see these things coming across as well. There are automated responses coming along with a very high degree of personal touch. There are apps like Haptic. I'm not sure if you've heard of it, but it's a pretty dope system which talks about where you are placed and how do you want to get some personalized blue collar services in your house, or a local city guidance, or any of those individual support. In one of the recent surveys, we actually found out that social media is one of the biggest choice for customer care right now. If I have an issue with Flipkart, I would not go back and write them an email and then wait for an email response in an automated way that your email has been received and will get back to you in 24 to 48 to 64 hours. I would rather get onto Twitter and hashtag Flipkart, or I would rather get onto their Facebook page and drop a quick comment, and I anticipate a quick answer. And that's how the customer is evolving these days. And the good thing being, businesses are quite receptive to this, which is why we see that social media is becoming one of the largest communication channels for the businesses around the world. Social shopping and instant purchases. So social commerce isn't slowing down, and 57% of the consumers are more likely to buy from a brand that they follow. And in a research, it came out that 75% of the people actually made a purchase because they saw it on a social media platform. That means beyond creating communities and beyond sharing emotions and human touch, we are also touching businesses. We are touching businesses at scale, and we are able to promote the business's interest at the same time. The only added factor to that is the additional component of social selling. So the brands, if you've noticed this, the brands talk a lot more about the human touch, because promotions would not happen without engaging, and social selling still would need a lot of interaction. So one of the recent reports actually said that 28% customers buy a brand that they are loyal to because their loyalty was developed on a social presence basis. Now, these are a few numbers that probably do not make instant connect to you, but the idea that I'm trying to share here is that how the social platforms at large are impacting the businesses, the decisions that they make, the investment that they make in their overall marketing portfolio, how a business 10 years ago used to invest a lot more on television as their primary source of media, and how that has been optimally shifting towards a more digitally consumable format, how the entire landscape has been evolving, and how the customer has been at the center of all of this. Another trend that is happening a lot in the social media space and will continue to evolve further is the more vicarious experiences like 360 images and videos. People are starting to demand a lot more social media as a conduit for more interesting experiences. And it's not enough to just say that I was probably in Goa chilling with friends. I would rather want to share a 360-degree video of me and my friends sitting and chilling by the beach with this amazing view out there, so that I can share that experience with my friends and family who are not there with me at the moment. And that's exactly why these ever improving experiences are redefining the social media landscape on a personal basis. Advertisement renaissance. Now, an opportunity there obviously exists for the market and the businesses to respond to where the maximum of the consumers are. And as we said, as we just saw, that 37% of the people are active social media users. That's probably one single biggest opportunity of so many customers at the same place for any business in the world, which is what has also taken the entire digital advertisement industry by a rate shake, and things have evolved way faster than they were probably 5 years or 10 years or 15 years ago. The increased competition in businesses and the pressure to become profitable have also been have also forced social media to come up more ingenious and creative advertising options for businesses. Now, what's happening there is the necessity is the mother of invention. There's a need to stay profitable. There's a need to be able to serve customers and yet thrive the businesses, which is why it demands newer experiences, which is why it demands newer innovation, which is why it keeps the digital media industry going forever and ever. So it's a symbiotic relationship where businesses and the digital media industry very much depend upon each other to understand what's working, what else would work better, and the new innovations thrive on top of that to understand how can we make the life of people better around businesses and around the experiences on the web at the same time. The last one being inspiration and imagination is the new fashion. I'm not sure if you guys have seen this ad, which I've taken a screenshot of on the bottom of my page. If you haven't, you can actually go back after this session and just YouTube this link. Just search for the DNA journey. This is an advertisement that was displayed early this year, I think. And this advertisement took the world by surprise with the response that it got. The lesson that was learned here was that the practical posts actually get a lot of consumer attention, no doubts about it. Emotionally charged posts have a greater likelihood for circulating virally, but the inspirational and imaginative posts are starting to make their appearances as even stronger candidates for social media successes. Which is why you would say that if you see an Amazon ad, or if you see a Flipkart ad with those little kids, or if you see a ad by Coca-Cola, these are not the product-centric ads, these are all the people-centric ads. The idea is to inspire a snap deal talking about unboxing zindagi, which means unboxing lives of people around their passions. That's exactly what is being the chief component in terms of how we are redefining the entire advertiser and web experiences for the people around the social media. So if I actually go back and if I see all those 6 trends, they are again all about people, all about somebody who runs the platform. Everything else that you see is possibly around the periphery. So, having talked about where the digital social industry is in terms of numbers, in terms of trends, what do we expect to see more of in the coming years, in the next 2 to 3 years, are those trends? Let's talk about what is the key, what is the buzz about the social media analytics now. What exactly are we doing with that? How are we employing the techniques? What is it about? What does it in fact mean? What does somebody do in a social media analytics? So what you see on the left right now is a typical business plan that works anywhere in any industry. When you plan something, you execute it, you measure the results, and then you take the learnings, inferences, best practices from the execution and measurement, and then plan better for the next iteration, and the cycle goes on. That's exactly how businesses run, and that's exactly how businesses on the social network would also run. So that's not exactly something which is very different. However, the one that you see in the blue, that is the planning and the measurement side, is where a majority of the social analytics happen. And there are few components that we try to address during this entire experience. To start with, so what we do is we the first focus that we typically do is in the planning phase, where we help the marketer develop a strategy and tactics on how to support your business results. Of course, we have a result in mind, that this is what we want to achieve out of this current. Uh, 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 let's say I am an advertiser and I have $100,000 on the plate, and I'm saying I came to you and with a question, or with a business ask to get so many new users, or to get so many new products being sold, or to get so much amount of revenue in sales. That's my business objective. And then we start working backwards on how do we want to set up a social strategy around it, plan the entire session around it, and then further take it to the execution stage, where we execute our strategy and then we measure our results. And again, like any other field, this is a pretty experimenting field in its nature. So there's no guaranteed result in the first attempt, which is why it's an execution, it's an ongoing cycle where you perform, measure, learn, and perform again. So that's how it is. On the right side, if you see, we have actually tried to break down the stages further in terms of what do you do within the planning and measurement stages. As I said, that these are the ones that we normally try to focus on within the social analytics framework. Another question is, why are these stages important actually? So if you talk about the planning stage, that's exactly where you need to set up the strategy for your social media investment. Which platforms do you want to invest into? Who do you want to target into? And how do you want to basically spend those $100,000 that you have on the table to make the maximum value out of it? And then once you have a plan, a social strategy in place, you start executing it, and then you go towards the measurement, which is the key and the most important component in the entire cycle. If you're not able to measure something, probably you're not ever going to be able to understand the return on your investment. And the ROI being the center of any business, it becomes imperatively important for you to be able to measure your stuff. In fact, in one of our recent conversations with somebody, I realized that how a business problem is structured would always have an associated metric or an associated result with itself right from the beginning of the problem hypothesis or the problem statement. Only when you know what you want to measure in terms of, like I gave the examples of like 20,000 new customers or 200,000 of new revenue, those are the kind of metrics or ROI that I'm talking about. Let's see a deeper view into each of those stages. Within plan, you see an audience analysis. Now, all of these are pretty much in relation to how the social media is designed. So hi, I think I lost the last 10 to 15 seconds with the platform being muted and unmuted by itself. So let me go over again on the conversations piece, where conversations is about connecting people with the sentiments that they are floating around a particular brand in terms of basically analyzing the process of understanding conversations surrounding a brand or a specific topic or any selected area of interest. So an example I just gave about was, for example, the Big Billion Days by Facebook is an initiative that brings around a lot of emotional content in terms of good experiences, in terms of bad experiences, in terms of people raging all over the platform, and in terms of people sharing how they got amazing deals over the platform. That's an example of how conversations around the business help in understanding what is the sentiment in the market, and if you really need to work around better branding, or if you need to work around better payments, or if you need to work around better platform for somebody saying that the XYZ businesses has amazing products, but their platform is so bad that it never is able to place an order. These are the kind of discussions that we generally tend to observe from the conversations that we see online. And another component there being the competitive analysis, which talks about a process of looking at specific companies within a chosen industry or segment, focusing on their activities, benchmarks, and tactics to gain insight. Of course, I mean, where there are businesses, there is competition. And when there is competition, that is one of the major goals of every business out there, to outperform their own competitors in the business and get a better share from the market. With a few selected tools in the social media space and third-party measurement solutions, you can actually measure how you are performing against your competitors, whether Pepsi is performing better than a Coke, or an Amazon is performing better than a Flipkart, and accordingly you learn from your best, from those who are performing better than you, and then you also understand what strategies have been working better for you, and then you try to scale it further or continue it as is. So those are the kind of interesting analysis that come from competitors. Once you have a successful plan in place with these kind of levers around audience, conversations, and competitors, you execute your campaign or you execute your strategy. You go out, you publish your advertisements, you let them run, you gather results, and then you start optimizing your social tactics, which is where it comes to, it boils down to basically measuring your performance so far. So your performance is generally measured in terms of how your brand value has gone up or down, how have your audiences been engaging with you, and what exactly have been the business results. So when I said the brand awareness or the brand activities, analyzing brand activities include measurement of the actions your brand takes, like publishing content, responding to users, promoting brand campaigns, ensuring that your business carries a name in the market, that an Amazon.com connects to the users instantly. The users are getting the experience that would make sure that they come back again and again. There are various ways to do that. How are people reacting with your website? Have there been constant drop-offs? Have there been negative sentiment around your brand? All of those are some ways how we measure the brand activities analysis. Going further, we talk about audience engagement analysis, which is the analysis of how your brand activities are received with, interacted with, and amplified with your audience, both at a content-specific level and a brand level. So we try to understand that apart from the overall brand level overview, how is my particular area of audiences or my particular audiences engaging with me, and has there been a positive or a negative experience so far? We then follow up with the most concrete business results there, which is in terms of measuring the social impact on both direct outcomes like engagement, like traffic, how many people are viewing us, how many people are liking us, how many people are converting into customers with us, how many people saw this particular video and then bought a product with us, how many people registered for a new service that I launched with this new taxi service advertisement that I sent out. Now, this kind of measurement allows me to measure the efficacy of the advertisement in the first thing. The second is I am able to measure how much of my advertisement is giving me the return in terms of my business objectives, whether in terms of revenue or in terms of customers or in terms of leads. And then on top of that, is my social strategy working well within the audience that I tended to or not? And if there's a potential to alternate strategy, we should be thinking of it basis on these results. So the complete picture is when each of these activities are given proper attention, social strategy and optimization becomes a standard essential of the market process. That's a brief of how the entire social analytics framework works. It's not just about the likes, clicks, and conversions that we talk about, most certainly. It's not about only the love reactions that you give. However, those are very important when it comes to understanding the brand behavior. But it's a lot more. It's a lot more detailed in terms of things that we do with the social networking in terms of I-18. I-18 means internationalization, which is multilingual support. While English only analytics may be one thing that we look at, the world is a lot more about localized support and localized engagement. If you go to countries like anywhere in the South America, you would normally see people talking in writing emails, conducting businesses and everything on a daily basis from personal to professional space in Portuguese or Spanish. We go to Japan, Japanese is the only language that businesses run in. Same is with China, same is with Korea. There are a number of those languages that we need to be able to support better, and which is why multilinguality is a key feature for us. And of course, given that that's one component that we cannot ever hire people in all the languages, and we cannot have enough resources for people with all the languages, we depend upon machine learning. We depend upon automated translations. We depend upon interpreters. And those are the kind of language analytics that do exist in the world today. Another important thing that has been gaining recognition so far in the social media industry is the text analysis. Text analysis is, for an example, most of us are aware of IMDb movie ratings or the Rotten Tomato movie ratings. There are a star rating and then there are reviews. Now, in the Reels domain, what we do is we try to analyze those written textual paragraphs about the movie's review, and we try to automatically categorize it into good or bad as a very basic example. There are more, of course, there are more layers to that, but think of it as a world where every comment that you write could be interpreted into a good or a bad, and that could further cascade into a business respect or the business value right now being a positive sentiment or a negative sentiment. Those are the kind of quantified and qualitative, yet qualitative. I think that's the right word. It's quantified, but it's a qualitative summary of how customers are responding and interacting with our businesses. Machine learning, stats, language engineering, it's a lot more about using neural networks, about using language engineering approaches. So this is pretty much in line with what I just talked about, I-18, but there's a lot of work that is being done there right now, and custom taxonomies and tuning them with machine learning. All of this is continuing to exist because these are still the harder problems that we are trying to solve in the industry. Image analysis. Image analytics is again a lot more interesting. There are a lot of things that we try to do, not just at Facebook, but at all the companies that I know of. Try to understand the images now, read images better. We have had a digital imaging process, imaging and digital image processing as continuous principles in our engineering curriculums across the world as well. However, there's been lesser that has been achieved in that domain, and as we go ahead, there's a lot more scope that we are trying to cover up in the image analytics in particular. So when you see those filters coming on your screen, those are all some good examples of image analytics. Speech analytics is one of the most difficult problems that I have heard of, and I might be wrong when I say one of the most difficult because there's no paramount level to difficulty there. So, but speech analytics is being able to, for an example, if I have a Chinese student in the session right now, and while I'm talking in English, the person is able to hear that out in Chinese in real time. It's called real time translation or real time interpretation. That's the kind of problems that we are trying to solve for, and which is why I said my trend number one, if I go back and talk about, was artificial intelligence. Most of what you see on this list is a part of those artificial intelligence topics. We talk about emotion analytics, and I would actually pick up on emotion analytics and ISO emoji analytics together, which is the latter. Emoji analytics is quite interesting. This is about measuring your hearts and measuring your smileys and measuring your tears and all those smileys and emojis that you share. While emotion analytics could be a combination of emoji analytics and speech and text analytics, where you talk about reviews, you talk about opinions, and you're able to interpret the emotion out of it, which is also called as the sentiment analysis. And those are the kind of things that help us connect better to people. And like I said, social is all about people, which is why these are few areas of importance to the businesses out there. In the end, there are network analytics and there are machine translation. So network analytics is, again, come on, we're talking about 2.5 billion people. It's a huge network out there. And to be able to support that scale, there's always a need to be able to have those levels of nuanced, sophisticated systems and networks in place. And network analytics is pretty much about understanding those regional nuances, and also at the same time connected back to the people domain to be able to understand if we could have networks within certain tree level of networks out there. So a lot of work is being done in network analytics as well. My idea behind this entire slide here was to kind of touch upon various topics that we work on in the social media. I am not very confident if what of all these, all of these, or some of this is what we work at Facebook, but most of this is what we work in the research across the digital industry platform, including the business schools and including the engineering schools that support these areas of research and development. Exciting. So how do I get there? This is a question I often get across in my one-on-one connects and sessions with the students out there. And then there are these similar topics I hear a lot more about. How do I get there? Let me give you a quick summary of how did I get there. I started my career as a Java developer programmer with Accenture. And I had been quite passionate about analytics. But there was a reason behind it. There was a reason why I would want to interview every other day with a company that works in analytics, small or big, doesn't matter, paycheck doesn't matter, role seniority, juniority doesn't matter. What all it used to matter to me was if I get a chance to work on data, if I get a chance to work on bigger sets of data that can impact results, which can change businesses or which can change people around. And that's exactly why I'm going on this list bottoms up. The first and the foremost point for me was always being the passion about the industry. In all fairness, it took me 3 to 4 years before I could make an educated and I would say a more justified move from a business domain or from an engineering domain into a data heavy or a data analytics domain there. The only advice that I have before I get into anything technical or anything creative there is understand why you need to get there. Do not get in there because you hear the buzzword there. That's a very interesting place to be. There are a ton of opportunities to learn, to contribute, to create an impact at large. But if you have that passion for that industry, or if you have that passion that where you can see yourself really grilling out, but being satisfied by creating that impact at large, That's what defines passion for me, and that's exactly how I keep myself motivated. Enough of wisdom shared there. Coming back to the technical skills and the creative skills, data science and analytics is a domain which requires you to be thinking out of the box, which requires you to be thinking innovatively, which requires you to be creative when you question. It requires you to be a person who is in detail, who understands how to ask the right questions, who has some sight of farsightedness, and he can see that when he implements a particular product or if he implements a particular strategy, these are the top 5 to 7 things that he's going to have questions on. And accordingly, he is able to ask the right questions in the beginning. That's the creative side of it. On the technical side, nothing can be more obvious than for a data heavy person to be equipped with the basic data handling skills, whether it's about SQL, whether it's about data visualization tools like Tableau, if it's a programming to model advanced data techniques on R, SAS, Python. The more you know, the better you are. But most importantly, whatever you know it to depth. Do not try to cover 10 different topics and spend 2 weeks on each. I would rather, if I were you, I would rather spend 6 months on one topic but get to the core of it, because that's exactly what would make you successful, instead of touching different topics out there but not getting into the details of it. Staying into the details is the most important thing according to me. That brings me to an end of the discussion, and this is me. You've been listening to Ketan Gulati so far. Thanks for being so patient and listening to this one-sided monologue. But I would rather now love to open this discussion to everyone else in the room. Go if you have any questions, feel free to just ping those questions across, and I can pick up a few more questions before we end. Like I said, make things happen. Pick one battle at a time, whether it's the technical aspect, whether it's the creative aspect, just make things happen. That's it. All right, there's a question by Ram Gopal. I have a digital marketing experience of about 3 years. I do not belong to a technical background academically. Moving to analytics will be an upgrade or a lateral move. So it is not always required for people from tech background to be in analytics. I would in fact see a lot of people from psychology or arts into the tech space, because they have an amazing perspective on measurement, and most of them are trained in statistics, which is the pretty fundamental of analytics. And again, like I said, digital marketing is about people, so it's a lot more about understanding people behavior. So tech background is one component of it, which makes you fitter for the technical implementation, but there's a lot more. Would it be an upgrade or a lateral move? I would just say it may be a shift, but if you're already working in digital marketing experience, it's neither. It's just a growth. Gaurav Kumar, how to start a career in analytics? Like I said, start small, pick up a few skills that you need to understand what you need to work on first. It could be, if you have a stronger side on the data and programming side, picking up Python will make you more equipped into that side of the business. But if you're more towards experiences, if you're more of a people person who love to address people at large, who love to work with thousands of people together, you're still suited for the business side of it. So you need to figure out what's your area of interest and accordingly pick that up. Anjali Ebat, hello Ketan, I'm a BA and now have started getting into SAS and R. You think is a good move? How long you might take that I may take to settle here to my ability? Well, I would say R, SaaS, all of these are pretty interesting platforms. And this answer is not just for Anjali, but for everybody else. Do not lean on learning R and thinking that learning R will give you a data analytics role. Learning R will give you a data programmer role because all you know is a platform called R where you can code. And what you can code is probably something that still a business analyst will tell you. If you want to be a digital marketing person or a social media analytics person, try and understand that understanding the business, understanding the requirement is equally important. Being able to measure, if you go back to my diagram where I was talking about the plan, execute, and measurement, being able to measure is very important, and that would only happen when you have skills around statistics, when you have ideas around how do I measure an online platform. All those things are equally important areas, I would say. Devdatta, what is the key things to become data analyst? I would say perseverance. It's not an easy slope. If you're not in from the market, I would not give you a false hope in terms of that try a course for 3 months and you'll get it. Probably no. But yes, if you do not do the course, probably you will not land anywhere. So pick up a course, pick up a learning environment for yourself. It could be a classroom one, it could be an online one, it could be with a friend, it could be yourself. Read, learn, and implement. That's most important. Implement. There are places like Kaggle where the internet is full of open sources where people are willing to collaborate with each other. Find those opportunities to collaborate. But like I said, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint that you would be able to run in 3 months. You keep going towards it, it will end up being successful. Absolutely. That's my promise to you. There's a question from Jignesh. Hi, I've been studying data science, so there are tools taught like R, SAS, Python, etc. Once I'm done with that, after that, entering the organization, I can work in which tool? Is the choice upon me or the company itself? Ideally, it's both. When you apply to a role, of course, you have an option to apply or not apply, but it's mostly business driven. Again, R and SAS and Python. If you know all of that, you are anyway as a person who's always going to be in demand. Uh, a lot of this is business driven, I would say. Srinath Reddy, R or Python, which one will be more preferable in data analytics? Hands down, Python is going to be the future because Python has uh, way more flexibility right now, and it's certainly being looked upon as the next big thing. I myself is a big fan of R though, and I think R has been like one of the biggest pillars of revolutionizing the entire data analytics industry for us. So I wouldn't undermine R, but given the usability in the professional space, I think if you were to choose one and invest your time in one, I would suggest Python. Alok, I do not have any programming background, neither I have any experience. How important is it to know the programming languages? I wouldn't say a lot if you are a good statistician, if you understand measurement, if you understand the regression. R is something which is extremely easy, maybe more easier than Python also. Programming languages like Java and other more suited programming languages is something that could still take some time for you syntactically. Statistical packages are mostly less heavy on the semantic and syntax there. So it should be fine as long as you know the skill and the science around it. Sakshi Singh, I have an automation background for about 3 years. How much of this will count if I start now into analytics? I've recently started with RM SAS and will I be treated as a fresher? First answer, yes, all of it will count. Automation background because technical skills are always useful for us and for anybody who's into analytics domain. I have recently started with RM SAS and will I be treated as a fresher? Absolutely yes, because you wouldn't have an experience and uh, developing an application software is different from developing a data model. However, it doesn't. If I was you, I would not think of not going ahead because of being treated as a fresher. Like I said, after 3 years of my work experience, I started as a fresher again. So, which is fair. If you're working well, nobody can stop you from being rewarded for it. Okay, in the interest of time, I'll take one more question there. Have I already answered all the questions? Because Poonam Walke, sir, I want to start my career with analytics, but somehow I'm not able to find out the correct opportunities. Everywhere I receive the feedback that we want experienced people, not fresher. How to deal with this because I am a fresher? Uh, I would say there are. I've actually seen a couple of those situations. Analytics is a more nuanced science, and it may require some previous experience. Not that you would not be a fit if you're a fresher. There's always an opportunity to learn on the job as well. And in fact, even if you're trained, you still learn the most on the job. I would say try getting started with a few startups. There are a lot of startups in the Indian industry right now on the analytics space, and that's a good space to start. They are willing to experiment more, and they are more independent, where you get to learn a lot more and grow a lot more. That's one way to look at it. There are professional platforms like LinkedIn, where the right kind of networking will obviously add to your possibilities. And don't give up. There are a number of opportunities coming up, and I know that for a fact. I've seen a number of people in my own personal circle as well, where people are freshers and they land into analytics. So it's not a black box altogether. It's not a closed group at all, and there are opportunities out there. Just keep your perseverance high. It will eventually happen today or tomorrow. Thanks for your time, guys. I think we're slightly over the time, and this was a very good one aspect of you folks. I look forward to talking to you sometime else as well. Have a good one.